that would be where I'm from. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I'm a part of the Eagles Toastmasters Club, which Dawn is a part of as well. What else did we want to say?
Anything interesting about yourself?
Well, I work in the training space, and I work for an insurance company right now. And in the training space, I do a lot of online types of e-learning. So I have lots of different interests, and I'm involved with lots of different types of organizations like Toastmasters.
Awesome.
Done.
Great. And we'll learn more about you as we go along. Has so many interests. And next, I'm going to bring on Doug. Would you like to tell us about yourself?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Thiessen. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been a Toastmaster for almost 20 years and have a DTM and looking for some new experience, which I think an online club is going to be very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Aaron Long, would you like to introduce yourself? You just popped in. We're just doing our introductions. Tell us where you are in the world and a little bit about yourself.
Fellow Toastmaster from all around the world. My name is Aaron. I'm from Hong Kong right now. Unfortunately, today you won't be seeing me too much with the special effects because I've activated. Just don't worry. But the thing is, I just recently got my ACG actually today. Finally bothered to register after 11 years of history in Toastmasters because I was too lazy. And got my 2 paths, IP4 and also VC4 as well. I just got VC4 today as well. So hopefully I'll be of help to this club as well. Back to you, Dawn.
Great, thanks. And you'll have to explain in a speech what all those acronyms are because I don't know what they are in this part of the world. So we'll look forward to hearing about that. Next up is Jim Adams.
Hello, everybody. Jim Adams, District 40, which is West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio area in the United States. I'm a member of the Bluegrass Toastmasters, formerly also an Advanced Toastmasters Club, and I've done a lot of stuff many years ago with respect to Skype and stuff. I consider myself an early adopter, but a laggard when it comes to filling out my paperwork. So I'm not going to even tell you what my credentials are at this moment, but hopefully we can become more than just an online club like a lot of them are and be kind of the razor's edge on the kinds of things that we do. So I'm all in for that.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I like the razor's edge. So speaking of razor's edge, Andrea, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Andrea Sanger. I'm from Palm Springs, California, and my husband and I run a nonprofit.
Cool. Great. And Andrea is also our club mentor, or soon to be club mentor once we charter. So, and speaking about chartering, if you're, to become a member, get that stuff sent out, filled out, and ato.toastmost.org and do the quick start and just go through those sections, and you will also get an email from me soon with that information. Tricia, you are next.
Hi, I'm Tricia. I live near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I have been a Toastmaster all of 8 months, and I am soon to be earning my Triple Crown. I am a brain-damaged individual and also a breast cancer survivor.
Very interesting. And also an all-around great person, and Tricia's going to be our Toastmaster tonight, as well as being one of our club mentors once we charter. So thanks for that. And I think last but not least, the Empress, Pamelah Landers.
I'm Pamelah Landers. I'm also from Palm Springs area. And Andrew and I are both in the Palm Springs Communicators Toastmasters Club, which is where we met. Today's my birthday, and I am a hand analyst, meaning I read hands from a scientific perspective versus predictive.
And for how many years have you been doing that, Pamelah?
27. Been doing that for 27 years and have 8 books and 75 audios on the topic. I'm the world's expert. I'm the world's most published author on hand analysis.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's very cool. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I'm Dawn
Thank
Nocera,
you.
and I am a just finished with my high performance leadership project with starting this club. I am on my way to getting my triple crown with my advanced manuals, and I just have a few things to do and about 9 more speeches to give, and I will have my DTM. So that's what is, that's who I am. And I'm going to put the meeting back to, at this point, I'm going to give it to our Toastmaster, Tricia G in Pennsylvania. So back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and excited to help get this club off on its feet. Our Toastmaster meeting is broken into 3 parts, but we have lots of helpers to help with this meeting. I would like to introduce them to you. We'll begin with our body language monitor, Todd. He'll be looking for our actions while we're on the meeting, and behave yourselves so he doesn't have to report on you. Do we have someone that would like to step up to be our counter grammarian for today?
I could try that. Give it a go.
I can do it while you're leading the discussion, Dawn, if you do it for the other parts.
Okay, that sounds
Because
great.
I can't do it while I'm speaking.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to count your O's when you're speaking yourself. And our timer, Doug. Would you like to show us your signals for when we need them to help us time our speeches?
Yes, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As the timer, I'm going to be showing, keeping track of time for everybody, and I will demonstrate the timing lights so that everyone can see they are behind me. So when you've spoken a reasonable amount of time, for example, in a 5 to 7 minute speech, at 5 minutes, I will turn on the green light. And then when you're getting close to your total time at 6 minutes, I will turn on the yellow light, which means that you should be wrapping up and stopping. And then when you reach your total time, I'll turn on the red light, which means that you have filled your total time and you should have stopped. Ideally, we don't see the red light. We have 2 speeches. One is 5 to 7 minutes and given by Pamelah. And then Dawn will also be doing a speech which will be 20 to 22 minutes. It'll be a discussion. So she's requested lights at 19, 20, and 21 so that she can wrap up the discussion before we hit 22. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and proceed to our prepared speeches for today. Our first speaker is Pamelah. Pamelah's most valued talent is making stuff up in her art, in her business, and with her friends. And designing from a new perspective excites her. She's been creating as innovative since childhood, just for the fun of it. Speaking from the CC Manual, project number 9, Speaking with Power. Her speech is to persuade us with power. Sorry, I lost my voice. Please help me welcome birthday lady, advanced Toastmaster Gold, and confident leader Pamelah Landis with Breaking the Rules. Breaking the Rules, Pamelah Landers.
Thank you. Change requires breaking the rules. If you're going to make a change, something is going to have to be different than it was before. An example is Bill Gates. When he sat in a room with the executives at IBM decades ago, instead of selling his DOS operating system, he said, I'll lease it to you. That was a breakthrough, break the rules choice, because until that time, operating systems were proprietary to the company that had the computers. Another example of this is George Lucas. He and Steven Spielberg, when they created Star Wars, did special effects that were different than had ever been done before. And it started an entirely new industry. They broke the rules. On a more personal level, in the Toastmasters Club that I'm in Palm Springs, we broke the rules by having a talent show the week between Christmas and New Year's. We used the structure of setting things up, of having an opening and a closing, but in between, we had everybody who wanted to shared some talent. There were no speeches. There were no evaluations, so we broke the rules. A lot of people are petrified to change. They'll do anything they can to hold on to things the way they are. This kind of fear prevents people from having a life that they want. Are you one of those people? I don't think so. You're in this group with Maverick leaders. Mavericks break the rule. It's required. One of the ways to break rules is to modify, which I shared that we did in our Toastmasters Club. You take a current structure and you modify it. That's pretty easy. You don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to build something from here and try to make it go all the way this way. You just take something and you shift it a little bit. Another way to break the rules is to separate. Sometimes the rules you're breaking are personal rules that you have in your life. I have to live near my family. I have to go to bed at 10 o'clock. I have to eat breakfast, a solid breakfast every day. What if you decided to break those rules and go to bed at 10:10? Or 10:30, which is really outside the norm, right? You may have to renegotiate, which is another way to break the rules, with yourself or with somebody else. Let's say you decided you wanted to get divorced. You're going to have to break some rules. What if your family doesn't believe in divorce, or you're part of a religious system that doesn't believe in divorce? What rules are you going to have to break to get out of that marriage? It could be so painful because you may lose your community. You may lose the support system you have. And that can be so painful for people. Like sometimes it's just not worth it because they can't feel the permission internally to be able to make that happen. It's scary for people to break the rules, but it's required if you want change. There's just no way to change your life without breaking the rules. Little rules, medium rules, big rules, it depends. One of the things I recommend if you're going to break rules is go one step at a time. First, you have to determine what rule it is, what negotiation you have with yourself, what belief system you have, and how, if you break that rule, it's going to change your life. What do you imagine is going to happen? What do you imagine is going to happen if you make the choice to commit to eating breakfast every day, because mostly you've been drinking coffee for breakfast? What if you actually have to prepare food? That means you may have to get up earlier. You may have to shop. You may have to have food available that you can prepare. That's going to require some planning. It's going to require extra time. It's a rule change. It's not a big one. It's not as big as getting divorced. It's not as big as moving to a new city or a new town, but it's a big one. So honor your noticing what fear comes up, what stops you from wanting to break a rule, and what motivates you to want to break a rule. What's the motivation? What's the purpose? What change are you wanting that breaking this rule, going from here to here, is worth it? and all of the steps that you're going to be going in between. What makes it worth it? If you decide that you want to join a group such as our Toastmasters online group for Maverick leaders, there's a focus of time in your life that's going to be added to your calendar. That may mean changing something. It may mean, like in my case, I have to be up and on here by 8:30 a.m. It requires getting up and getting dressed, which I don't do every day because some days I am talking with people on the phone. So breaking the rules requires you to make some choice that you either are motivated by and to face the fear that's preventing you from doing it so that you have permission to break that rule. I encourage you to get honest with yourself about what wants to be changed, how you want to do it, and what's motivating that change, and what rules need to be broken in order for you to have that change in your life. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our next speaker is our fearless leader, and I didn't write down all your credentials, Dawn, but she's our Maverick leader. She's going to lead us in what rules we might be able to break. Dawn is presenting a advanced speech from Facilitating Discussions. It's the brainstorming session, and this is entitled Advanced Evaluations That Rock. To you, Dawn.
Well, thank you so much. Oops, I think there we go. Thanks so much. I want to start by saying that everyone is invited into this brainstorming session. So as I'm facilitating this session, I want you to begin to start to think about the problem that we're going to brainstorm is how do we create an environment where we're giving evaluations that rock, and not just the evaluations that rock, that the evaluations help our club attract Maverick leaders, people who are speaking, people who want the kind of caliber of feedback that they can only get in a club like ours. So what I need at this time is a volunteer who will be willing to do a screen share while I facilitate it, and they can actually type on or open up a page, like a WordPress page on their computer. Doesn't have to be just anybody who wants to do this. Just open up, and I'll show you do the screen share. We're going to do technology minute here too. All you would have to do is click the screen share and then click on, you'll open up.
Are you asking to write down notes?
I'm asking to write down notes.
Okay, I can do that, but I'm going to do it in Word because I don't use WordPress.
Okay. I think there's also a whiteboard option within the Zoom thing, which I just see. I don't know how that looks or how that works. But if you do the screen share, we might be able to do the whiteboard.
So now you're asking me to get complicated technology-wise, which makes me crazy. So
do whatever you want.
Is it okay if I just do Word?
It's okay if you do Word. It's okay if you do whatever you want. It's just
all right.
And
I'm clicking on Sheen Square and nothing's happening. There we go. Okay.
Okay. It'll take a second. I so appreciate you doing this. So while she's setting this up, I want you to start to think about what are the things that are going to make this club attractive to other advanced leaders, people who are giving presentations, maybe not just within Toastmasters, but they're out there giving presentations, they're speaking from their heart, they're making a change, they're trying to make an impact in the world, and they are Toastmasters, but they want to get something more. So the first question we're going to focus on is, what do our evaluations need to look like? So I want you to think about that, just the visual of what would our evaluations need to look like. And we're just going to brainstorm the best practices or whatever comes to your mind. And Pamelah will take some notes. And if you want to just unmute yourself, and I will, if you want to speak, unmute yourself and I will call on you, and that way you'll know who can go first. And Pamelah will just take notes once she gets a new page up.
Actually, I'll start.
Okay.
Since I'm muted, not muted right now. One of the ways I want our evaluations to look is authentic feedback. I really like it when people are telling the truth about their experience and being on the receiving end of the evaluation. We've all been through the taking it easy on the new people. We're not there anymore. So how authentic can we be in telling the truth without attacking?
That's great. And are you able to create a new document and take notes for everyone's feedback and just start listing those things? So we're going to brainstorm, and one document has every single idea in it.
I'm putting everything in one document. It can be shared. It can be broken out later.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and I'm not seeing it on the screen. That's why I'm asking. Because right now I see your Word document that says summary of the student path of the lines of genius.
No, that's weird because I opened a new document.
You can choose.
All right, let me stop sharing and come back and share that document. That's so weird. It usually doesn't do that.
I like to contribute.
Okay, Jim, you can go next. Thank you. There you go.
I'll keep it very short, but I do think that keeping in mind that we are basically being trolled by people that might find our club interesting, the way we actually convey and portray and show after the fact the general evaluations and the evaluations for the individual speakers is going to be a powerful tool as well. The thing that I commented on the Facebook group was I love the fact that on an online meeting, we don't have the restriction of a 1 hour time where we are rushed to fill in someone's book before everybody disperses and then comes back again in a week. We have the ability to spend some reflexive time and create a really good evaluation. So not only is there an evaluation that might be in meeting, I think that we could probably make this a hook and a great feedback for the speaker by having an after meeting furtherance of the evaluation and then somehow convey that maybe as broken out videos or as a supplemental document, something like that. So I think the pre, the during, and the post, just like in marketing, but focusing on the evaluation portions would be something that would be beneficial to meet that goal.
And could you give me just a vision, something that I can actually picture in my mind's eye that will tell me what would that look like for you?
Well, so for now, what you've got is you've got a small link that shows, hey, go to our YouTube channel where you can see some videos and you actually, give timestamps and things. I think if we've got a well-maintained website or a Facebook page, the public-facing Facebook page, right, we can curate which evaluations we want to show. It doesn't even have to be the one that most currently happened. It might be something that after, like this week we do an evaluation, but then we have a written evaluation that happened between last week and this week that might be something that we want to share. So it would be something that we would post maybe with a snippet. You know how articles have a quote with some kind of profound saying. I think looking at it from a marketing point of view, I would post it on a Facebook page as what did you call it, Maverick Evaluations or something like that, to where it becomes not just an evaluation for a person, but it emphasizes the evaluation quality as well. So it's something, it's almost like writing an article of what an evaluation has, like generalizing the key things out of an evaluation and make it useful for people that read it, not just for, oh, Joe did this and Joe did that. It's almost like an expansion where you talk about these are problems with people's presentation, and these are key issues that need to be resolved that we documented in the course of this one evaluation. So maybe a summary.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. And I'm going to move on to the next person. Todd, you are unmuted. Did you want to add to this conversation with an image of what it is that you are seeing or what you would like to see with the evaluations? I know you're a great evaluator.
You're very kind. I really like what the last gentleman said. It makes me think of something similar that we do at the company I work for, which would be in one of our groups. What we do is actually blog about it, if you will, or if you're familiar with the tool Yammer. So we'll go ahead and post something as feedback to a question, but it's becomes significant enough that someone may suggest, hey, why don't you go ahead and copy that and put it into a document, and then we'll go ahead and post it on something we call Spot, or some kind of blog site or page. And then that could be a snippet of information that could be used by everybody to help them out on different aspects. Of course, with Toastmasters, it would be different aspects of public speaking. That could be a helpful solution. So not only would it help during that specific evaluation, but it could also help ongoing, in addition to what other available materials are out there at Toastmasters International.
Great, great, thank you. And Andrea, you're not unmuted, but I'm going to ask you if you have any thoughts on this. What would make this club attractive to you as a very maverick, very out of the box Toastmaster in regards to the evaluation coming into a new meeting? What would you want to see in order for you to feel like, yeah, this is pretty cool. What they're doing here is really out of the box. Really, for me, what would that look like for you?
I think evaluations have seen an evaluation that would help the person to hone their skills on video, chats, whatever. They're going to be presenting themselves to maybe a larger body of people or a client or someone that they're trying to get money from, so that they are thinking about, what are you looking like? What are you sounding like? What is there something that you're doing that's distracting? Any of those kinds of things, so that they begin to see themselves in the worldwide look at what you're looking like and sounding like as you speak on this.
Great. And as Jim Adams just suggested within the chat, we're going to open up also the chat section to have spontaneous ideas in addition, because sometimes if you are not the one speaking, but you want to riff on the topic that the person's speaking about, just go ahead and put something there in the chat. And we will save this and make it available later for everyone, so we can have a copy of that as well. And Doug, you're unmuted again. Did you have another suggestion or something else that you wanted to add?
I was going to say, in terms of one of the things that I think I'd be attracted to in this club, or in the idea of the online club, is the wide variety of people that are here. I've visited clubs in several different districts over the years, and it is actually remarkable to see the differences in how people do things from one district or one location to another. And I think that the wide variety of advanced opinions here coming from different places and different districts is going to be very beneficial for all of us in our evaluations to get that wider perspective. Back to you.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm going to call on Aaron from Hong Kong next, since he represents what you were just talking about. far away, another district from most of us, and some different points of view. So, Aaron, what are some of the things that you would like to see in a club like this, in regards to evaluations, that would really fire you up and make you want to come back?
I think the first thing I noticed during the discussion, I first of all, I just want to comment on some points whereby I would see a concern and I would talk about my feelings, because there are some things which I was seeing is very important. First thing is about evaluation. That was actually a really nice idea that I got from in Australia, whereby you evaluate, write a post, write a review and stuff. Good points allows people to show a role model. A downside is that there are some people who do not want to be evaluated on the screen. So there are people who will feel that it's not professional enough to be sharing their own private speaking styles along with the world, and then people can comment on it. Because when you have advanced leadership, we will actually come by with all different dots to make this a very great place to be. I personally love a different style compared to most others by having two different types of evaluation style from my 11 years of history that I find I would be coming back for. The first style is level 1 to 3 style. What do you mean by that? Whereby there's a cupcake approach, the sandwich approach, and the shotgun approach. This is actually done in 11 different clubs in comparative speakers. Oh, no, is it comparative speakers club around the world, and it has been a common trend since 2006. This is a method whereby I'm adjusting to my extent, whereby if I want to be evaluated in a very harsh manner, I can adjust my gauge. Like I only want to have a shotgun approach. So the evaluators will be commenting me nothing except criticism, except the points that I want to improve on. There will be no sweet stuff. There will be no sandwich of constructive approach, because I'm ready to actually step on to the next journey to really enough of the beauty talks. I only just want to focus on the most important bits. But if I'm really feeling a bit down, then I may want to hear some nice points about my evaluation. Then I may go for a cupcake one. So there's a choice of option. So a cupcake, sandwich, and shotgun. So this is the way whereby I actually find it very fancy and really useful. And the second way I find is really common around in advanced clubs is a roundtable evaluation, whereby I find that it's actually really useful when you have a roundtable, because everyone is actually quality evaluator. So when you have a roundtable, everyone can focus on one point they want to focus on. Some people may focus on the structure of their speech. Some people may focus on the vocal variety perspective of their speech. So a roundtable evaluation actually focuses on everyone's strength to combine to a very good evaluation. So these are the two that you can actually consider to improvise on it. I wouldn't say that you have to do it. The reason why it's simple, because you are advanced Toastmasters. You are setting a unique type of evaluation style for your club. It has to be a role model for others. So by combining so many best practices, you have to narrow to one or two that suits your club. So that will be my perception of that. I prefer the level 1 to 3 approach, because that's the way whereby I can really adjust to my perception whether I want to listen to what sort of evaluation for that day. And I can choose. The evaluator can pick level 1 to level 3 based on that situation. Awesome. And the cupcake is actually on the only nice stuff. So you will not hear any single word of criticism, not even a constructive feedback on whether you want to improve. Only good things.
I would like the cupcake approach. And I'm going to cut you just short, Aaron, because I have a couple other people who want to add some feedback. Keep those thoughts, add them to the chat, and I'm going to go to the next one. Jim Adams, you had something to add?
I like exactly what Aaron is talking about. The round table, we call it round robin, has been a problem sometimes timing wise in our club. And we do it a lot when we don't have an evaluator. We basically say, okay, everybody will start left to right, make 1 point. And as you go around, you make 1 point. As long as you still have 3 minutes on the clock, you go around a second time and make a second point. And you do that until you're exhausted with the time. Secondly, I think if we give it a name, the level 1, 2, and 3 is great. I think we should give names to these types of evaluations. That's catchy in itself. it's definitive. It's something that we can request as we become more familiar with the different types of evaluations we offer. And I think opening up the chat box, like for example, round robin in a chat box window for me, please, then basically that call can be made where everyone shares, but at the same time, we can be utilizing this chat window if this is appropriate for the person wanting the evaluation to receive not only individual round robin feedback, but a continuous stream of things that we're doing like right now in this brainstorming session. I think that'd be a good hybrid. Should give it a name. In addition, like we have the level 1, 2, 3, and then we could do the round robin and the chat room kind of thing. I think that'd be an awesome addition to this club.
That's a great idea. Thank you. And we are still brainstorming. So all the ideas are being dumped. This is a complete brainstorming session. Pamelah, after you're in there typing so heavily, did you have any additional thoughts and brainstorms that were coming to you as you're doing this?
Doug just unmuted himself, so I think he has something he wants to say.
Doug, okay. I can only see 3 people, or I guess 5 people at a time. Go ahead, Doug.
Thanks. What I wanted to say with regard to the chat room is, or the group chat is, I think that it would be good to like take a minute after each speech and be able to give some feedback in the chat messages from everybody to the speaker. I think we did that last week, but we didn't do that after Pamelah's speech. So I think that could be something we could try and take up on a consistent basis to provide more feedback to the speaker as a group. Back to you.
Good, thank you. And
Agreed.
Andrea, did you unmute yourself again? No? Okay, just checking. Todd, did you have more to say? Because you are still unmuted.
Oh, am I unmuted? No, I'm
Yeah.
unmuted. I would like to say that, and maybe this came up, but it's a question. How do you find out what is the preferred method? We have all these different methods that are really great, and I'm excited to hear, but how do you find out what that speaker would prefer? Do you find out ahead of time before they join the meeting? And the other question is a follow-up. Whatever method that speaker likes or the club likes, would that be the method that should be adopted throughout the whole meeting for all speakers?
Great question.
It looks like Jim has raised his hand.
I think that's a great idea. I know that what I tell people to do is approach their speaker before they speak and ask them what they want to focus on. That's a great opportunity to ask them what type of model of evaluation that they want to use. I think it should be on a case-by-case basis, not necessarily for the club. That's just my opinion. And I really like the concept of sharing in the chat box the feedback. We did that, but there's an awkward pause when you take that 1 minute to give someone an evaluation as you're texting or making notes, where our online becomes silent, and we need to fill that silence with something. And I'd suggested that maybe that's a moment for a public service announcement of some sort, or maybe another tech moment that someone can share to fill in that 1 minute where people are making those notes. So I think we should do it, but I think we should be cognizant of the fact that we're going to have some dead time that needs to be filled for the benefit of the other people that are not participating in that, people that are watching the video, and people are just sitting there participating in the meeting.
All right, well, great. So our time is up, but I want to invite anyone who wants to continue this conversation in this document. We'll somehow get this onto Facebook. Pamelah can send it to me, and we'll get that onto Facebook, and we can continue to define these things and to brainstorm. There's an opportunity that somebody else can do this same presentation next week or another future meeting, so we can continue to brainstorm and narrow it down and get some answers to this. So with that, I am going to say thank you very much for the brainstorming that you've done, and I'm going to hand it back over to Tricia, our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Dawn. Up next is our impromptu speaker, topic master, Jim Adams. Please welcome Jim.
Hey, everybody. So the theme that was shared last week for this week's meeting was the Olympic spirit. I had such a wonderful time researching from my venue. I'm a very global type of person, so I started out researching all the different governmental and political turmoils that have occurred in coincidence with Olympic Games over the history, and the racism in the past, and women not being able to participate, and Jesse Owens kicking butt when the Nazis were going to prove that, you know, their blonde, white, 6-foot guys were, you know, going to take over the world. So that's kind of where I came from. But then I pulled back a little bit to redefine what is Olympic spirit. And I found some quotes, and I want to start out and put you in the proper frame of mind for these questions. The most important thing, this is a quote, in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part. Just as the most important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is to not have conquered, but to have fought well. So my question for one of you today, the first of three, is growing up, tell us about what kind of group sports or competitive activities that you did play. And did you win or just take part? Or did you conquer or just fight well? And I'd like to ask Andrea for answering this question, Andrea.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Sure. Growing up, tell us about what kind of group sports or competitive activities that you participated in. Did you win or just take part? Did you conquer or just fight well?
Thank you. I was a very active sports person when I was younger. I participated in skiing, swimming, softball, volleyball, football, basketball, just about anything you could think of, as long as I didn't have to just run in a straight line for no good reason. I like to have some activity where to go along with it. I was a conqueror. I wanted to win. However, I wasn't overly upset if I didn't win. I would say my favorite memory of playing was when I was in the 6th grade and I was playing volleyball, and I served a complete game I won every single point. That was like, wow, really exciting moment in my life. It was one of those moments where you can't ever match it again. I love winning in that setting because I was the youngest person on the team at that point. I also just really loved skiing when I was a kid, and how cold it was, but how fun it was to just make that shushing sound when you're going down the hill and beating the person next to you. Because oftentimes we did dual races, so you could see who was really actually winning. I still kind of am like that today. However, I married someone who wins more than I do, so I've had to learn to graciously give in, and that's a very difficult thing for all of us, I think, especially as Mavericks, because we want to win. Thank you.
You're muted, Jim. Jim, you're muted. Sorry.
Guys, thank you very much, Andrea. The next question is, back in the Canadian Olympics, which I thought was a fascinating Olympics, just the opening ceremonies actually was, to me, great. They had slam poets at the opening, and they had all sorts of native North American native Indians, which was, to me, just such a great perspective to share with the world. But they had another quote from their Olympic committee was, "To build a peaceful and better world is the Olympic spirit, which requires mutual understanding with a spirit of friendship, solidarity, and fair play." So that really speaks to what they call Olympism, and that's a philosophy of life, exalting and combining in a balanced whole of the body, the will, and the mind. And this really does have a lot to do with the respect for universal, fundamental ethical principles. My question to our next respondent is, have you ever been in a situation, or hypothetically seen a situation, where play was not fair, where something was not fair? And if not, what would you do if you did see some kind of discrimination or cheating? And I'd like to ask Aaron, is Aaron still on or is he off?
I'm still on.
I would love to hear your perspective on that, Aaron.
So the question, can you repeat it just in case I missed it?
Sure. Have you ever been in a situation, or have seen a situation where play wasn't fair, where something competitive wasn't fair? And if not, what would you do if you did see some type of discrimination or cheating in the terms of Olympism, the spirit of the Olympics?
Okay. So fellow Toastmasters, most distinguished around the world, I do really care about Olympicism. Why do I say so? Because I do carry the Olympic torch. I was just finding the picture of that, and I did really carry that Olympic torch because I was actually a replacement runner for one of my friends in UK. So you can actually check back the pictures. But the point is that when you actually carry the Olympic torch, you carry the righteousness. That's why I am in the legal practitioner area. I'm a barrister. So I need to make sure that justice is served. So once upon a time, I played the game when we were young, we were rebellious, and I played something called the Chinese shuttlecock. This thing. The tiny thing whereby you would kick with your leg and you juggle and kick it across the badminton court. To make sure you score, you have to actually have a nice team, making sure it's really great. However, there was once upon a time, things matters and the referees are not fair. So the referees are actually judging based on whether we are nice to them or whether they are kind of corrupted. So some people pay them a very nice, good fortune money or treat them dinner, so they were actually assigned to torture us to make us lose the game. So I was actually the team captain. I was really pissed off. I was so angry because I see unfairness in the play. And I couldn't, the first thing that I was thinking about, I couldn't do that, is to punch them in the face. I couldn't, because that is showing not the Olympic spirit. The next thing I would do is to punch the referee, which I couldn't do as well, because if you punch the referee, you get a red card and you'll be sent off. So other than punching, what else do I specialize in? The art of persuasion. So you have to convince them with statistics and facts to make sure that accountability is assured. When you have unfairness into play itself, the only two elements that make sure that you stand out from the crowd is accountability and respect. When I say accountability, you have to make sure that there are eyewitnesses. So when there are weaknesses, you're able to convince the audience to make sure that they pay attention to whether you are having a fair play or not a fair play. The second part is about respect. If you try to present yourself to be a handsome gentleman along the scene as a team captain keeping out cool, people will start to respect you. But if you're seen as a disruptive player or a disruptive Toastmasters, not many people will love it. So, hence, in charge, you have to actually get those two elements in play to prevent any unfairness along the way. Back to you, Toastmaster Evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That was great. And how interesting to hear that you actually carried the torch and actually had it in your hands. How fantastic is that? I love that. All right. So lastly, my last question for today is, now that we're in the right frame of mind, we all can remember watching our different Olympics and the excitement of watching the opening ceremonies or the closing ceremonies. The one that scared me to death was the opening ceremony in China, where you had 50,000 apparently drummers, and they were tight. They were drumming, and they did not sound like, they sounded like one single drum. To me, that was awesome, and also just kind of scary at the same time. So what I want to do is ask the next person a question, which is about the Olympics. What is your favorite Olympic sport? Do you like winter or summer? Or what do you like the most about the Olympic venue that we get to experience once every 2 or 4 years? And I'd like to ask Todd, is Todd still here?
I'm waving.
All right, Todd, I'd love to hear your perspective on what you like about the Olympics.
Thank you. Given that I'm not a big sports fanatic, I will still give a valiant try. I like watching the Olympics more than most other sports within my country. I would say the most interesting sport might be gymnastics, because it shows a wide variety of moves. for example, you're running across and flipping in the air, and the next person that does it would do the same, but maybe have a different twist. Maybe because of they're trying to get higher points, so they're doing maybe a triple versus a double, and flipping this way instead of that way. So there is variety as opposed to compared to, say, swimming. It's just the breaststroke, and you're just swimming. So I really like that aspect. So my vote would be for gymnastics. And also, I want to point out, it's not just the floor exercises. You could be doing the rings, or doing the high bars where you're flipping around that way. Again, just want to emphasize there's a lot of variety, so that would be my choice, the gymnastics.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Todd. So that concludes the table topic session, but I do want to encourage all of you to take advantage of focusing on the Olympic spirit. It's right around the corner. There are some great ideals and values and things that we can be promoting for the benefit of all mankind at this point. Honestly, I have that. To me, I think it was a great topic suggestion, and it's not something that needs to end here at this one meeting. I think it's something that it's worth all of us carrying the torch and sharing, and which is the Olympic spirit for world peace, bottom line. So with that being said, I'm not sure if this is proper protocol, but were all of our speakers in time?
Thank you for the question. 2 of our 3 speakers were in time. Andrea spoke for 1:45, Todd spoke for 1 minute 24, and Aaron spoke for 2 minutes 39 seconds.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and turn control of the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Tricia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I thought those were very thought-provoking and appropriate questions concerning the Olympics will be just around the corner. And my favorite thing to watch is gymnastics as well. So I was there with you. Do we actually have a general evaluator for today? Pamelah? Okay. So this is our evaluation portion of the meeting. I will hand it over to Pamelah.
Okay, evaluations. Now I'm going to ask Doug to evaluate me as the first evaluator.
Thank you, Pamelah, both as general evaluator and for your speech. Pamelah was doing speech number 9 from the Competent Communicator Manual, which is a persuade with power speech. So she was trying to persuade us on a specific topic, which was about breaking the rules. That you have to break the current standards if you really want to make a change in what's going on. And I think that she presented some great examples. I really made her idea very clear in how to break the rules and suggestions that we could do. I liked in her opening, she started out right away with a couple of great examples from mavericks like Bill Gates. And one of the things I also wanted to comment on as being quite well done is her gestures, in that most of the time I did find her gestures to be emphasizing the point she wanted to make. But also what I really noticed is her great use of framing with those gestures, in that she was using the screen. She talked about the opening at the top and the bottom and in between, and she really used the top and the bottom of the screen well when she was making those statements. I think she also concluded well in her call to action that we have to focus on what we want to change or what we want to accomplish in order to make a change. Now, the point that I want to challenge on is, I think, the overall structure of the speech, because I really found that it was hard to distinguish between where the introduction and examples in an introduction were being made versus the real meat of the speech in the body. And as the timer, I could see the clock, and it seemed like at about 4 minutes or so was a very distinct move from more opening material to the more meat of the speech. And I think that that really made for a very long introduction with less time available to develop the topic in a specific and persuasive way for all of us as listeners. So I think that I would challenge her to kind of focus a bit more on specific things that we could do to challenge ourselves to break our own rules. And that part was done, I think, well in the conclusion, but I think in the conclusion, even though it was a call for action, it was still also introducing new material, which I would avoid. But overall, I think that definitely Pamelah got her message across and was persuasive in saying we've all got to step out, break our own rules, break the conventions in order to make the changes that we really want to see. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And now Andrea is going to evaluate Dawn.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Dawn's speech today was about brainstorming, and the purpose of her speech was to get us to brainstorm. She did a very good job of getting us to brainstorm. However, one of the goals of this brainstorming session was that she actually had us make some decisions about what we needed, what we wanted out of that in the long run. That is one of the objectives of the speech. We never really got to that part, and part of that was, I think, a learning area that we're working on as Toastmasters online. In other words, we aren't quite sure about all the technology yet, having to do with whiteboards or screen sharings or some of those other things. You might want to work on that ahead of time with whoever you're going to have do that particular job. I really like that as we moved along, that we added the chat to it so that we could see what people were thinking that weren't necessarily speaking yet. So we had different modalities of being able to add to the brainstorming session. I think that there's inherently it's very difficult to brainstorm online because you do want to have one speaker at a time, whereas if you were in a room doing brainstorming, everybody could pop out with something very quickly. And that's generally how brainstorming is done, with 5 to 10 minutes of brainstorming, then you make a decision instead of each person having, and I have to say, all of you were kind of long-winded in your brainstorm. Instead of one sentence or one snapshot of something, it made it longer so that she wasn't able to get to some of those things that we really, the essence of what her speech was about, which was making a decision about how we were going to brainstorm. I do think that we do have some really great opportunities to follow up on this and come up with some really good tools for evaluating. I love some of the things that we came up with. I'm excited about how the Mavericks are going to be able to do this. I look forward to evaluating you and also hearing evaluations of how I did in the future. Thanks, Dawn, for doing that. And back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Andrea. Can we get a timer's report, Doug?
I had to unmute myself there. I had to get to the button. I've given the times for the table topics, so I'll just review the speeches and the evaluations. Pamelah spoke for 6 minutes and 39 seconds, which was excellent for a 7-minute speech. Dawn wrapped up at 22 minutes and 30 seconds, which was just on time for an overall 22-minute speech. I was timer and evaluator, which can be difficult. I forgot to start my own timing, so I didn't get a time for myself. But Andrea, as evaluator number 2, was 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Back to you.
Great, thank you. Okay, I have a very short amount of time to evaluate the meeting, and I have a lot I want to share. The timers report for the speeches, Tricia, should have been done after the speeches as opposed to waiting until the general evaluator. In case you don't do that in your club, that is the normal thing, is to ask for timing for the speeches. Jim, when you were doing table topics, you spent way too much time talking and not creating space for other people to do table topics. The introduction about what you did historically could have been taken out completely and just share a little bit about the Olympic spirit. And then your wrap up took away time from my general evaluation when you ended table topics. So just being really cognizant of staying on time for the part that you have and not needing to talk as much. When you're at the table topics master, your job is to call on other people. It's not about you. It's about the other people in the group. So I just want to recommend that we get really conscious about that. And some of your questions were so complicated that the people had to ask you to repeat them. So again, just being conscious of how the questions are being presented would really help. One of the video things that's happening, which is happening right now, and I don't like it, is that whoever is doing this is putting the speaker on full view. And when Jim was doing table topics, he didn't know if people were still on the call because he couldn't see who was on in the gallery. So somehow, I don't know how that needs to be managed, but that was kind of a challenge and something that I don't know how we're going to deal with it, but it just feels like it's something that needs to be handled in some way. Erin, you made a very inappropriate comment about hot girls, and I wish you wouldn't do stuff like that. This is a professional group, and it's really not appropriate in the chat box to add comments like that. So those were my comments for the meeting in general. I want to evaluate the evaluators, which is that, Doug, you did a great job, and I really appreciate the authentic feedback and what could be improved. And you're right, I did do a lot of introduction stuff. You couldn't tell, and I appreciate having that pointed out. Also, Andrea, you did a great job on talking about what the purpose was and then what needed to happen that didn't happen, and that can be done at a different time of not getting the choices made or a decision made about what we're doing. So both of you did great evaluations. You shared what went well and what needed to be improved, which I personally like, and I really appreciated having that happen. I think we're doing well as a group. We're learning a lot about the online process, and it's just one step at a time. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. At this time, I will hand the meeting back to Dawn.
We're unmuting ourselves. So this is one of the things. Thank you, Tricia, very much for being the Toastmaster. And I have just a couple things that I'm going to invite everybody. I'm going to close the meeting and invite you to stay on afterwards to listen to some different technology things and to try out some different things regarding some of the topics that are being discussed in the chat section of the meeting. And did you called on the chat monitor? And
I ran out of time.
Okay. So if
we're over time now, so yeah.
If these roles want to put something into the chat box, you can, and we will save it. Just let you know that you can actually save your the chat by clicking on that more button and going down. It says save chat if there's anything within the chat box that you find personal for yourself. And yes, so I do want to do the body language monitor because it looks like Todd really has something he wants to say. If you can say it within 30 seconds.
Sure, real quick in 30 seconds. First of all, I appreciate everyone trying to do things. The only issues were that there was a lot of kind of random motions and not enough, in my opinion, of the body motion. So it was a lot of hands, but then you were also cropped out. There were a few great call outs. Some people were really, really good at actually positioning, you know who you are, your hands on the screen. So it's about making sure you're on the screen. Props to Erin for having props. Air quotes, I think, Jim, you were the first on that. And I could also point out, Dawn, one of the good things where you were using this that was kind of unique, as well as continuing and narrowing. But a lot of you did some of that, and it was mostly hands. But the big call out is that there's more we can do besides hand. Besides hands. It can be the whole body.
Yes.
The end.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I am definitely going to end the meeting now. I'm going to stop recording, and we are finished. And thank you.